The year is 58 BCE. Rome stands as the Mediterranean's dominant power, but to the north lies a vast, untamed frontier known as Gaul. This land of dense forests, rolling hills, and marshy lowlands stretches from the Rhine River to the Atlantic Ocean, from the Mediterranean coast to the English Channel. It is home to dozens of Celtic tribes, proud warriors with their own gods, customs, and fierce independence. Into this world steps a 42-year-old Roman aristocrat burdened by debt and hungry for glory. His name is Gaius Julius Caesar. Caesar has just secured appointment as governor of Cisalpine Gaul and Illyricum. Through political maneuvering, he also obtains command of Transalpine Gaul, Rome's foothold beyond the Alps. With these positions comes the command of 4 legions, nearly 20,000 battle-hardened Roman soldiers. For Caesar, this isn't merely an administrative posting, it's an opportunity. Roman commanders who win great victories receive great glory, and Caesar desperately needs both military achievement and wealth to advance his political ambitions. Gaul offers exactly what he seeks: foreign enemies whose defeat would bring honor and whose resources would fill his depleted coffers. As Caesar takes command, a critical situation develops. The Helvetii, a powerful tribe from what is now Switzerland, begin a massive migration. Claiming pressure from Germanic tribes, they burn their homes and villages, planning to relocate to Western Gaul. This migration of over 300,000 people, warriors, women, and children, threatens to destabilize the entire region. When the Helvetii request passage through Roman-controlled territory, Caesar sees his opportunity. He delays his answer while secretly rushing reinforcements to his position. When the Helvetii attempt to pass through anyway, Caesar has his pretext for war. Near modern Bibracte in central France, Caesar's legions confront the Helvetii in a bloody pitched battle. The Roman forces hold their ground against wave after wave of Celtic warriors. Roman discipline proves decisive, their ordered lines and tactical flexibility overcoming the fierce but disorganized charges of the Helvetii. The Helvetii are decimated. Caesar orders the survivors to return to their homeland, establishing them as a buffer against Germanic incursions. In one brilliant stroke, he presents himself to Rome as both conqueror and defender of Gallic stability. News of Caesar's victory against the Helvetii spreads quickly throughout Gaul. Tribal leaders from across the region approach him, concerned about another threat: the Germanic king Ariovistus, who has crossed the Rhine with his warriors and seized territory from Gallic tribes. Caesar, ever alert to opportunity, publicly declares that he cannot allow friends of Rome to suffer such aggression. Privately, he recognizes another chance to extend Roman influence and his own glory. He dispatches messengers to Ariovistus, demanding a personal meeting. When Ariovistus suggests Caesar come to him instead, the Roman general replies with icy clarity: "If I needed anything from Ariovistus, I would have gone to him. If he wants anything from me, he must come to me." As tensions escalate, Caesar's men grow fearful of facing the fearsome Germanic warriors, rumored to be giants who hadn't slept under a roof in 14 years. Caesar addresses his centurions, declaring that if no one else will follow him, he will march against Ariovistus with the 10th Legion alone. This shames the others into action. Near the Rhine, Caesar's forces engage Ariovistus's Germanic warriors. Again, Roman tactical superiority prevails. The Germanic forces are routed, and Ariovistus barely escapes across the Rhine with his life. In a single campaign season, Caesar has decisively defeated 2 powerful enemies, established himself as the dominant military force in Gaul, and set the stage for further conquests. But this is merely the beginning. As Caesar's first year in Gaul ends, he withdraws to northern Italy for the winter. Rome buzzes with news of his victories, but Caesar's ambitions reach far beyond what he has already accomplished. The coming spring will bring new opportunities for conquest, and Caesar intends to seize them all. Early in 57 BCE, alarming reports reach Caesar's winter quarters. The Belgae, the most warlike of the Gallic peoples, are forming a massive coalition against Rome. Occupying what is now northern France and Belgium, these tribes watch Caesar's growing influence with mounting alarm. To them, Rome represents not a protector, but a threat to their independence. Under the leadership of the Nervi, Atrebates, and Viromandui tribes, the Belgae assemble a force of nearly 300,000 warriors. Their intent is clear: to expel the Romans from Gaul before Caesar's legions can turn against them. Caesar moves swiftly. Mobilizing his legions, he marches north into Belgic territory before their coalition is fully formed. His speed surprises several Belgic tribes, who quickly submit rather than face Rome's wrath. Others, however, remain defiant. At the Sabis River, modern Sambre, Caesar faces his greatest challenge yet. As his men construct their nightly camp, the Nervi and their allies launch a surprise attack from nearby forests. The Romans have no time to form proper battle lines. Chaos erupts as thousands of Belgic warriors swarm towards the half-built Roman fortifications. This moment reveals Caesar's brilliance as a battlefield commander. Rather than retreat, he rushes to wherever the fighting is thickest, organizing resistance, rallying faltering units, and personally joining the front lines. He seizes a shield from a common soldier and fights alongside his men, inspiring them through his own courage. The battle teeters on disaster for the Romans, until the arriving 10th Legion manages to outflank the Belgic forces. Even so, the Nervi fight to near annihilation, with barely 500 warriors surviving from their original 60,000. After crushing the Belgic coalition, Caesar turns his attention to the Veneti, a seafaring tribe along the Atlantic coast. When the Veneti seize Roman representatives, Caesar launches an amphibious campaign against them. The Romans construct a fleet from scratch and devise new naval tactics specifically to counter the Veneti's superior ships. After defeating them at sea, Caesar orders the execution of the entire Veneti tribal council, a shocking display of Roman retribution. Caesar's campaign season is not yet complete. He dispatches his lieutenant Publius Crassus to subjugate the tribes of what is now Normandy and Brittany. Meanwhile, another lieutenant, Quintus Titurius Sabinus, defeats the tribes of central Gaul. As the year draws to a close, Caesar has extended Roman control across most of Gaul. His commentaries, dispatched to Rome, depict these campaigns as necessary responses to threats against Roman interests. In reality, they represent calculated steps in Caesar's grand ambition to conquer all of Gaul. Word of Caesar's achievements electrifies Rome. The Senate, prompted by Caesar's political ally Pompey, votes an unprecedented 15-day public thanksgiving to celebrate his victories. No Roman commander had ever received such an honor, yet beneath the celebration lurks growing concern among Caesar's political enemies. The conservative faction in the Senate, led by Cato the Younger, begins to recognize that Caesar's military successes are translating into dangerous political capital. Some even suggest recalling him to Rome before he grows too powerful. But Caesar's position is secure for now. His legal term as governor has years remaining, and his growing wealth from Gallic plunder allows him to buy influence in Rome. As winter descends once more, Caesar prepares for his third year in Gaul, his eyes now turning toward new frontiers, the Rhine River and the mysterious island of Britannia beyond the sea. The spring of 56 BCE brings no respite for Caesar's legions. While Rome's political maneuverings continue, Caesar focuses on consolidating his hold over Gaul and expanding Roman influence into new territories. Caesar's ambitions now extend beyond the borders of Gaul itself. He sets his sights on Britannia, a misty isle shrouded in mystery and rumored to be rich in tin, pearls, and other valuable resources. No Roman commander has ever mounted a serious expedition there. For Caesar, being the first Roman to conquer Britannia would bring unparalleled prestige. But before crossing the Channel, Caesar must secure his continental position. The Veneti rebellion has been crushed, but unrest continues in other regions. Shifting tribal alliances and sporadic resistance require constant military response. Caesar dispatches his lieutenants to various trouble spots while he oversees construction of a fleet for the British expedition. In the summer of 55 BCE, a new threat emerges. Germanic tribes, the Usipetes and Tencteri, cross the Rhine into Gaul, claiming they've been driven from their homelands by the more powerful Suebi tribe. Caesar, ever suspicious of Germanic intentions, moves quickly to intercept them. When the Germanic leaders request land to settle in Gaul, Caesar counters with his own demands. They must return across the Rhine. A meeting is arranged to negotiate terms, but Caesar claims the Germans attempt treachery. What follows is one of the most controversial episodes of the Gallic Wars. Caesar orders his troops to attack the Germanic camp, not just their warriors but their entire population. Roman soldiers fall upon men, women, and children alike. Most flee toward the Rhine, where many drown attempting to cross. Estimates suggest as many as 400,000 people are killed or driven into the river. Even in Rome, known for its brutal warfare, this action provokes outrage. Cato the Younger demands Caesar be handed over to the Germans as punishment for violating diplomatic immunity. The Senate, however, once again votes a thanksgiving for Caesar's victory. To further impress Rome and intimidate the Germanic tribes, Caesar undertakes an unprecedented engineering feat. He orders the construction of a bridge across the Rhine, the first time Romans had spanned this mighty river. His engineers complete the massive timber structure in just 10 days, a testament to Roman technical prowess and organizational efficiency. Caesar leads his legions across the bridge into Germanic territory, burning villages and destroying crops, but engaging in no major battles. After 18 days, having demonstrated Roman power, he withdraws back across the Rhine and destroys the bridge behind him. With summer waning, Caesar finally launches his expedition to Britannia. With 80 transport ships, he carries 2 legions, approximately 10,000 men, across the channel to the British coast near modern Dover. The landing does not go as planned. The Romans face fierce resistance from British warriors who charge into the surf to meet them. Caesar's men hesitate to leap from their ships into the unknown waters. The standard-bearer of the 10th Legion famously jumps into the waves, calling out, "Leap down, soldiers, unless you wish to surrender our eagle to the enemy." Inspired, the Romans push forward and establish a beachhead. However, a storm damages many of their ships, forcing Caesar to cut short his expedition after just 3 weeks. He returns to Gaul with hostages and promises of tribute, but no substantial conquest. Despite the limited achievements, Caesar's commentaries to Rome portray the expedition as a triumphant success, the first Roman crossing of Oceanus, the Great Outer Sea. For the Roman public, this venture into the unknown world beyond Gaul captures the imagination far more than his bloody suppression of Germanic migrations. As 55 BCE ends, Caesar prepares a larger expedition to Britannia for the following year, determined to achieve the substantive conquest that had eluded him. His position in Rome remains strong, bolstered by the renewal of his political alliance with Pompey and Crassus, known as the First Triumvirate. This arrangement ensures Caesar's continued command in Gaul, where his greatest challenges still await. In the summer of 54 BCE, Caesar returns to Britannia with a much larger force. 5 legions and 2,000 cavalry transported by more than 800 ships. This massive expedition aims to complete what his previous foray had only begun: the subjugation of Britannia and its addition to Rome's growing empire. Landing unopposed, Caesar marches inland, engaging and defeating several British tribes. The Britons, recognizing the futility of meeting Roman legions in open battle, adopt guerrilla tactics, harassing the Roman columns, ambushing foraging parties and melting away into forests and marshlands. The tribal leader, Cassivellaunus, emerges as the primary opponent to Roman advances. Using chariots with remarkable skill, his warriors strike suddenly, then withdraw before the Romans can mount an effective response. Caesar admires their tactics, noting in his commentaries how the charioteers would drive at full gallop down steep slopes, check their horses at full speed, run out along the chariot pole, stand on the yoke, and get back into their chariots with incredible speed. Despite these challenges, Caesar penetrates deep into British territory, crossing the Thames and attacking Cassivellaunus's stronghold. The British leader eventually sues for peace, agreeing to pay tribute to Rome and surrender hostages. Caesar, facing reports of unrest in Gaul and the approach of autumn storms, accepts these terms rather than risk being stranded in Britannia over winter. Returning to Gaul, Caesar finds the situation deteriorating rapidly. A poor harvest has created food shortages, forcing him to disperse his legions widely to secure adequate provisions. This vulnerability does not go unnoticed by the Gallic tribes, who have watched with growing resentment as Roman power entrenched itself across their lands. In late autumn, disaster strikes. An entire Roman legion plus 5 cohorts, approximately 7,000 men, are annihilated when the Eburones tribe, led by Ambiorix, lures them into an ambush. The Roman commanders Sabinus and Cotta fall victim to Ambiorix's cunning. He convinces them to abandon their fortified camp with false claims that a massive Germanic force has crossed the Rhine and that other Roman units are already under attack. As the Romans march through forested ravines, the Eburones spring their trap. Surrounded and unable to form proper battle lines, the Roman force is systematically destroyed. This marks the most significant Roman defeat in the Gallic Wars, sending shockwaves through Caesar's command structure. The success of Ambiorix inspires other tribes. Another Roman camp commanded by Quintus Cicero, brother of the famous orator, comes under siege by the Nervi. Only Caesar's rapid response with relieving forces saves Cicero's men from sharing the fate of Sabinus and Cotta. During the winter of 54 to 53 BCE, Caesar abandons all pretense of being Gaul's protector. He launches punitive campaigns against the rebellious tribes, employing scorched earth tactics, burning villages, destroying food supplies, and slaughtering livestock. His message is clear: resistance to Rome will bring only devastation. The Eburones suffer particularly harsh treatment. Caesar declares them outlaws, inviting neighboring tribes to join in their plunder and destruction. He writes chillingly, after burning all their villages and buildings and cutting down all their corn, Caesar withdrew his forces to winter among the Belgae. Yet, despite this brutality, or perhaps because of it, Gallic resistance continues to grow. Tribal leaders who had previously collaborated with Rome now question their allegiance. Secret meetings occur across Gaul, with messages carried by trusted envoys between tribes that had often been traditional enemies. As 53 BCE progresses, Caesar rebuilds his forces, raising new legions in Italy to replace his losses. He conducts another brief expedition across the Rhine to discourage Germanic tribes from supporting Gallic rebels. But these are temporary measures. Caesar senses a major uprising is brewing, one that will require all his military genius to overcome. In the towns and villages across Gaul, in sacred groves where druids conduct their rituals, and in the halls of tribal leaders, a new spirit of resistance is taking form, one that will soon erupt into the greatest challenge of Caesar's military career. The year 52 BCE dawns with ominous signs for Roman control of Gaul. What begins as scattered resistance crystallizes into coordinated rebellion when a charismatic young nobleman from central Gaul emerges to unite the tribes. His name is Vercingetorix, and he will become Caesar's most formidable opponent. Vercingetorix belongs to the powerful Arverni tribe. Unlike previous Gallic leaders who relied primarily on personal courage and battlefield prowess, he demonstrates sophisticated strategic thinking. He understands that the Gauls cannot defeat Roman legions in direct confrontation. Instead, he advocates a scorched earth policy, denying the Roman sustenance, attacking their supply lines, and forcing them to fight on unfavorable terms. When rebellion erupts, Caesar faces a critical situation. He is in northern Italy, separated from his legions by snow-filled mountain passes, while Gaul erupts in flames. With characteristic boldness, Caesar crosses the supposedly impassable Alps in winter, slipping through hostile territory with a small escort to rejoin his forces. Once reunited with his legions, Caesar moves swiftly to prevent the rebellion from consolidating. He captures several Gallic towns before they can be destroyed according to Vercingetorix's strategy. This forces the Gallic leader to abandon his scorched earth policy when it comes to the town of Avaricum, modern Bourges, which the local tribe, the betrayals, refuse to burn. Caesar seizes this opportunity, laying siege to Avaricum. Despite difficult conditions and fierce Gallic resistance, the Romans construct massive siege works and eventually storm the town. What follows is a slaughter. Of the 40,000 inhabitants, Caesar claims only 800 escape. This brutality serves a dual purpose: punishing resistance and terrorizing other towns into submission. Vercingetorix, however, remains undeterred. He retreats to the hilltop fortress of Gergovia, where the difficult terrain negates Roman advantages in siege warfare. When Caesar attacks, his forces suffer a rare defeat, losing nearly 700 men, including 46 centurions. This victory dramatically enhances Vercingetorix's prestige, bringing more tribes into his coalition. Caesar's position grows increasingly precarious. News arrives that even the Aedui, Rome's most loyal Gallic allies, have joined the rebellion. His supply lines threatened, Caesar is forced to retreat northward to secure support from Germanic allies. Sensing opportunity, Vercingetorix attacks the retreating Roman column, but suffers a significant cavalry defeat. He withdraws his remaining forces to Alesia, a fortified oppidum, hilltop town in eastern Gaul. Here, the final confrontation of the Gallic rebellion will unfold. The siege of Alesia represents the pinnacle of Roman military engineering and Caesar's generalship. Recognizing that Vercingetorix expects relief from a massive Gallic army gathering throughout the country, Caesar orders the construction of 2 concentric lines of fortifications: inner works to contain Vercingetorix, and outer works to repel the anticipated relief force. In a mere 3 weeks, Roman legionaries construct a staggering 14 miles of fortifications, including walls, towers, trenches, and deadly fields of obstacles. Caesar describes foot-long stakes with iron hooks buried in pits, sharpened stakes concealed in trenches, and fields of caltrops to maim attacking forces. Vercingetorix, trapped with approximately 80,000 warriors and civilians, faces dwindling food supplies. In a controversial decision, he expels non-combatants from Alesia to conserve resources. Caesar refuses to allow these civilians to pass through Roman lines, leaving them to starve in the no-man's land between the opposing forces, a brutal calculation on both leaders' parts. When the Gallic relief army finally arrives, reportedly 250,000 infantry and 8,000 cavalry from across Gaul, it launches coordinated attacks with Vercingetorix's forces. For 3 days, brutal fighting rages along the Roman fortifications. At one critical moment, the Gallic forces nearly breach the Roman defenses on the northern side. Caesar personally leads the counterattack, recognizable to both sides by his distinctive red cloak. His presence rallies the Roman defenders, who repulse the assault. Following this failure, the Gallic relief army disintegrates, returning to their tribal territories. With no hope of rescue, facing starvation and disease, Vercingetorix makes his final decision. According to Roman accounts, he adorns himself in his finest armor, rides out alone from Alesia, and surrenders directly to Caesar. The Great Gallic Rebellion is over, though Vercingetorix will languish in Roman prison for 6 years before being publicly strangled during Caesar's triumph in Rome. The fall of Alesia effectively ends organized Gallic resistance, though mopping up operations continue into 51 BCE. Caesar employs a combination of brutality toward those who fought against him. As 50 BCE begins, Caesar can claim complete military victory in Gaul. In just 8 years, he has conquered a territory larger than Italy itself, subdued hundreds of tribes, captured over 800 towns, and defeated 3 million enemies by his own count, with 1 million killed and another million enslaved. The cost has been immense. Entire tribes have been annihilated, cultures decimated, and economies destroyed. The population of Gaul may have decreased by as much as 30% during the war years. Yet, from Roman perspective, this is the necessary price of bringing civilization to barbarian lands. Caesar begins the process of transforming Gaul into a Roman province. He imposes tribute but keeps it moderate compared to other conquered territories. Gallic nobles who demonstrate loyalty receive Roman citizenship and privileges. Caesar understands that lasting control requires cooperation from local elites. In Rome, Caesar's achievements evoke contradictory responses. His military genius cannot be denied, and his commentaries, published throughout the campaigns, have captivated the public with their clear prose and dramatic narratives. Yet his growing power alarms many senators, particularly his old enemies among the Optimates faction. Caesar has achieved everything he sought when he first took command in Gaul. His debts are more than paid off, replaced by enormous wealth from war booty and the sale of slaves. His military reputation equals or surpasses that of Pompey the Great. He commands the loyalty of battle-hardened legions who have fought under his leadership for years. As Caesar's legal term as governor approaches its end, the Roman Republic faces its greatest crisis. The Senate, fearing Caesar's ambitions, orders him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, knowing this would leave him vulnerable to prosecution by his enemies. Caesar refuses, famously crossing the Rubicon River with his troops in 49 BCE, sparking civil war with the immortal words, "The die is cast." The conquest of Gaul thus becomes the prelude to the fall of the Roman Republic. Caesar's Gallic campaigns transformed him from an ambitious politician into a military leader of unmatched prestige, commanding veteran legions whose loyalty was to their general rather than to Rome itself. For Gaul, Caesar's conquest meant the end of independence but also the beginning of transformation. Within a generation, Gallic tribes adopted Roman customs, language, and governance. Roman roads, towns, and institutions replaced Celtic ones. What Caesar began with the sword, Roman civilization completed with commerce, law, and culture. The legacy of Caesar in Gaul extends far beyond his own lifetime. The region would become one of the most thoroughly Romanized provinces, eventually producing emperors, writers, and leaders who shaped the empire itself. The boundaries Caesar established between Gaul and Germania would define European cultural divisions for centuries to come. Today, as we walk the ancient sites of his campaigns, Bibracte, Gergovia, Alesia, we are reminded of how one man's ambition changed the course of Western civilization, binding Gaul irrevocably to the Mediterranean world and altering the trajectory of European history.